This weather continues to look even more intense with an expanded moderate risk for all three modes of severe storms, including strong tornadoes and yet another possible derecho forming later on this afternoon. If that does come to fruition, that would be the third one in a week time frame. That is very rare, guys, as we have a lot to cover in this update as it continues to move through tomorrow with more severe storms Wednesday and Thursday. And then heading into your holiday Memorial weekend, yet another round for Saturday, even into Sunday. So we got a lot to cover in this update. So let's take a look at the latest advisory from the Storm Prediction Center. Does in fact have that expanded moderate risk for all three modes for those areas across Iowa into Missouri, as well as into Western Illinois, getting into Wisconsin. But even the enhanced risk with the warm front lifting, surging all the way to Canada, pushes well into Wisconsin, even into portions of Michigan. So even basically in the slight risk, don't let your guard down because man, this atmosphere has been sending off several surprises. And yes, even further south, we do have what they call a conditional risk as it tries to build further south into Missouri, back into Oklahoma, even into portions of Texas today. They'll have to be watching a dry line, likely trying to get breaking the cap down there in that region. So we got a lot to cover. Let's take a look at the overall hazard map. This morning we can see the cooler air aloft. You can those are winter weather advisories, folks, for portions of Montana as well as into Idaho. That gives you an indication there is definitely some cooler air that this is tapping into the warm sector. There is the severe thunderstorm watch this morning with all the leftover activity in the overnight hours, and the flash flood watch extends it all the way to the Canadian border into Minnesota, and then numerous wind advisories. But look further south down there in Texas, that is a heat advisory. That is just what's to come as the heat will be building out of Mexico and slowly shifting further north as we get deeper into the week into the weekend. So here's the setup for the surface map. This morning, it continues to remain active. Last night, we just had a lot of hail break out in eastern Colorado. A lot of these areas picked up golf ball to even baseball size hail within that region. And that continued to move across Nebraska in the overnight hours with those 50, 60, 70 mile per hour wind gusts. And there this morning, we have the convection that's highlighted across over Iowa with the morning convection and still those severe storms with some up to golf ball size hail with all the heavier rains moving through Sioux Falls into Minneapolis and heading over into portions of Madison. But that's just the morning convection. And the second round looks to be even a stronger round, and that could pose that more significant tornado aspect of it as well. So here is the expanded risk on the hatched risk, implying yes, we could be looking at EF2 type variety tornadoes this afternoon. Even some long track tornadoes is definitely not out of the question for those areas into Omaha, back into Kansas City, into Springfield, especially in the Des Moines region, getting all the way up into La Crosse, heading into even can't even roll out portions of Milwaukee, seeing a tornado or two later on this afternoon. And then further south, it's still those areas into Missouri, back into the Tulsa region, getting into the further south into southeast areas of Oklahoma. But I think what's going to happen with as we get the morning convection starting to wind down, about 4 o'clock, we're going to start to see renewed supercell kind of isolated development that's going to be highlighted across Iowa and portions of Missouri. That's when the tornado aspect could likely start to ramp up across that region. And then heading into this is around 6, 7 o'clock time frame. Yes, that's when we could be looking at a nasty squall line likely to form and a potential derecho with a deepening upper level low continuing to amplify. And then down here further to the south, elongating this boundary, this one we could pick up those significant winds upwards to 70, 80, if not 90 miles an hour, and embedded tornadoes within this line. And some of those could be strong tornadoes and significant hail. So the atmosphere has the capability of producing some of that baseball size hail later on this afternoon into the early evening time frame through Missouri, and then further south as you get into portions of Oklahoma. And then yes, those areas, portions of Texas could try to break the cap. If they do hit convective temperature later on this afternoon, they could have their own supercell development, likely after the 6 o'clock time frame. So yes, it is going to be a very active evening ahead, and all the wind gusts as well over the next 24 hours. Here's the latest HRRR guidance for the high resolution models. And yeah, some of those wind gusts could easily approach the 60, 70, 80, even maxing out some isolated areas 93 miles an hour, folks. So that's some significant winds that will move through, originated into the Dakotas, back to Nebraska, but especially there into Iowa, back into Minnesota, getting into Wisconsin, into Illinois, and then further south in Missouri, and then lighter wind gust as you swing further south into Kansas, Oklahoma, as well as into the Texas region. But here's where it's concerning: is of all the updrafts on the Helicity Index, yes, we could be looking at more storms that blows up this morning across eastern Colorado, but I think things really start to amplify once we get into the 4 o'clock time frame. Pretty much the entire state of Iowa has the potential to see in some larger hail, and an isolated spin up tornado is definitely not out of the question. But look how far north this gets, up into Wisconsin, all the way to the border, folks. Yes, they could be looking at their own threat for significant hail and even stronger tornadoes, even that far north, and then further south through Missouri, portions of Arkansas, and then lighter, more conditional type risk as you swing through Oklahoma and portions of North Texas. But notice the tap shut off once you get past western Illinois, as we don't look to have much activity beyond that, within that next, 24-hour time span. But once we get beyond that, this is what we're kind of looking at here as far as the the depiction goes and what we're talking about. Here's the overall dew points with that cool front coming in. I showed you that cooler pocket aloft, right? Got some cooler air contend with, tapping into the warm sector as that ridge tries to build in from Mexico, right? Sending all those warmer temperatures, higher humidity values, and that just keeps pressing, that just keeps adding fuel to the fire. And now we're talking those areas across this region. This is where the cool front is going to be sagging. So yes, underneath that, that puts this whole area into play for your Wednesday timeframe with their own renewed threat for severe storms. And right now, yes, the Storm Prediction Center has that elevated, upgrade, enhanced risk as the cooler pocket aloft, the cooler air will help overturn the capping inversion, and then large scale supercell development will likely form coming out of Oklahoma into portions of north and central Texas, getting into Arkansas as well as in Missouri. And then you kind of have upscale growth into the evening time frame through those areas across Illinois, Indiana, as well as in Kentucky, then eventually swinging up into Ohio, getting into Pennsylvania, as well as western portions of New York. But there's the complex, the convective complex on the satellite view as we head into likely about 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. There's that convective complex that likely blows up across Oklahoma, through areas of north and northeast Texas, through Arkansas, and getting into those areas into western Tennessee, western Kentucky, and then eventually building into Ohio as well as into Pennsylvania, as we get deeper into the nighttime hours on your Wednesday. But overall, this is what's going to happen. This is on the radar depiction. Yeah, the convective complex is going to likely start to overturn the atmosphere coming out of southern portions of Oklahoma, entering North Texas with those larger hail producers into the afternoon time frame. The likely afternoon time frame was likely going to be between 4 and 10 o'clock across this region, with isolated to scattered supercell development would likely unfold, and they would have their own wind gusts with them as well. So you got the first system trying to wind down, but still leaving some pretty significant swaths, even for northern areas of Minnesota, getting into Wisconsin, now getting into portions of Michigan as well as into Indiana. But then you have that second system for your Wednesday timeframe that will produce the higher wind gust across Oklahoma, through areas of North Texas, and then getting into Arkansas as well as into western Tennessee and northern portions of Mississippi. And then they would have their own hail threat as well. So this is your more or less Tuesday time frame. This is your Wednesday time frame further south. So yes, coming out of Oklahoma, fishtailing down into North Texas, possibly reaching as far south as Central Texas. Could be some larger hail producers in the Austin region, the Dallas-Fort Worth region, Northeast Texas, southeastern Oklahoma, getting in northern portions of Louisiana, as well as into Arkansas during the day on Wednesday. But overall, the next 48 hours looks like this. So yes, you have the cooler pocket aloft that will be coming in from the Pacific Northwest. Will bring the kind of a chillier rains and some mixed with elevated snows across that region. But I think things get going across eastern Colorado today, swinging through Nebraska, but really amplifying once we get into Iowa, getting into Minnesota, as well as into Wisconsin, into western areas of Illinois, getting into Missouri. And then you have that second complex for tomorrow that's going to originate in southeastern Oklahoma, getting into areas of north and central Texas, but really producing some higher rain amounts as you swing through areas of Arkansas and northern portions of Louisiana. And then that convective complex would swing northward and with upscale growth, as well as into Kentucky, back into West Virginia, as well, getting into Pennsylvania and Ohio, eventually heading all the way up into New York. But that didn't stop there, folks. Yes, because we have that boundary, the cool front. The cool front's going to stall and it's going to lift back up as a warm front. And yes, we have another little short wave that will be coming across, tapping into the heat. You know, the heat fuels thunderstorms, and that's going to be all it needs to produce more severe storms. Yes, and we'll be watching this activity too that will be swinging across. That will be the responsible for more severe storms as we head into your Memorial weekend. So for Thursday now, this is Thursday, there's the cool front will likely be across this region, stalled, and then we have the short wave dipping down, tapping into this energy. That's going to produce more storms across Texas as well as into Oklahoma, and that's exactly where the Storm Prediction Center highlights that threat across Oklahoma City, back into the Tulsa region, through Springfield, as well as into Little Rock, getting back into the Dallas-Fort Worth region. This would actually likely be upgraded to an enhanced risk as well. Looks the same criteria: large hail, damaging winds, isolated tornado threat. But it doesn't end there, because there's the heavier rains going into Thursday night into Friday across areas of the Ohio Valley. And that would only swing further north as we head into overall Friday, getting into Saturday morning for those areas across Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, getting back into Virginia, as well as into upstate, areas of Pennsylvania, going into that Friday time frame. But there's the surge of the heat likely will build for your Memorial weekend. Look at all these record high temperatures, potentially 11 of them could unfold. It's nothing but record. It's actually really cool. It's going to be really nice for those areas across Idaho. Yeah, that's a 50-degree high temperature, folks. Yeah, that is going to be some really nice stuff. But you see the cooler pocketed building in from Colorado, and then the heat just expands there in Texas. All those circles implying record heat. Yeah, that's not a misprint. Approaching 110 degrees already. Widespread 90s for the deep south and much of the southeast and Florida. And that heat will just try to continue to build further north as we get into your Memorial weekend. And as it does, yes, another little short wave that will be coming across, tapping into that cooler air coming in from the northwest, warm coming in from the south. And then, yes, the disturbance would overturn the atmosphere again and produce, yes, another round of severe storms into the Dallas region, southeastern Oklahoma, as well as into Little Rock. Yes, this would likely get expanded as well as we get a little bit more certainty closer to that time frame. But it doesn't end there, because the heat doesn't end and the cool air doesn't end coming in from the northwest. It only expands, and those temperatures only lift even further north, with the 90s now surging into Oklahoma, into Arkansas, trying to get even as far north as Tennessee, would be approaching 90 degrees. And as it does, yes, we have another little short wave that will be coming across, another area of low pressure highlighted across Missouri and Illinois. You got plenty of fuel to fuel those thunderstorms. And heavier rains, strong gusty winds, and larger hail would likely come back for your Sunday. Now we're talking areas across Memphis, into Nashville, back into the Jackson region, into Louisville, Kentucky, back into Paducah, as well as into Springfield. So, guys, I know it was a lot to cover, but man, this is a very active May pattern. So definitely stay tuned to this channel. Be sure to like this video. Definitely hit the subscribe button and catch my next update. Wire protect you before and after the storm.